Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And I rise to acknowledge the final report of the Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee into the voluntary assisted dying in the Northern Territory. And the committee tabled its final report obviously this morning, and we've had a nice, very deep discussion about that right through today and the evening. And of course, this follows two earlier interim reports in July and September this year. And this final report represents the culmination of months of consultation, careful consideration and significant work across the Territory. And I want to acknowledge that this is a very important and very serious discussion that not only have we had in this chamber today and tonight, but that has been had across the Territory for a very long time now. And I do thank everybody for respectfully contributing to the debate. You know, it's obviously been a long day, and it's quite heavy for people to talk about death, because death is very, very serious. And I take on board the member for Araluen talking about how difficult it is for most people to discuss this topic. But I do want to also just be really clear with Territorians that and really pick up on some of the things that I heard from the Leader of the Opposition this evening about her draft bill that she put forward to the Chief Minister and myself yesterday, and she was out in the media talking about it yesterday. And I want to be clear that that draft bill has been drafted by the Leader of the Opposition over the last 6 months. I think she said May was when she first started working on it, based on policy work which she has created herself. She has not done the full process of going out and listening to Territorians. She hasn't spoken to the Department of Health when it comes to doing policy work. And she would know, being a former Attorney General, that that work is quite detailed, it's quite in depth, it does take time, which is why we have decided that I as Attorney General will use the government resources to be able to draft the bill based on all of the work that's been done. And I guess that's the point, that I tasked the committee to do this important work, to be able to dig really deep down on Territorians' views and what they really thought, especially going out to those communities, but to make sure that they did consider policy for us to decide and consider as a government. I think that was really important that the committee did that. So the idea and that she's clinging to, which is all the politics of this argument that she's put forward about, how she's forced us into making this decision and to rush this and just get on with it. I just don't buy any of that. Then there's this other idea that she was talking about, espousing this idea that the report that Labor commissioned that was done in 2024 was ignored by government, and it was also ignored by the committee, which is actually not true, because very specifically in the letter that I first wrote to the committee asking for them to do this work, stated, like I request, that the LCAC undertake an inquiry into the voluntary assisted dying in the Northern Territory final report 2024. Like, it specifically says that in the letter. So I just wanted to correct the record of that information that the Leader of the Opposition was espousing, because it's just not true. The other thing I heard throughout the day, which was very confusing and a little bit frustrating, because I heard it time and time again, was this complaint by certain members that we haven't done VAD fast enough. So that was part of it. Like, in one hand, they're saying you haven't done it fast enough, hurry up. I mean, the Leader of the Opposition's trying to push us into it by putting forward her own, just to move us along to make it faster. But then at the same time, I heard a number of times today that there wasn't enough time to finish the work that had to be done. So there was a real contradiction in, and sometimes the same speaker would say those two things as polar opposites. So really confusing. And I just want to make the point, this is a very serious discussion, which we've always said should be a broad, deep conversation with all Territorians, as many as possible, and that's exactly what the work has been done. So, Madam Speaker, yes, you're back. Madam Speaker, the Northern Territory was the first place in Australia to legalise voluntary assisted dying almost 30 years ago under the Rights of the Terminally Ill Act 1995, and that law was later overturned by the Commonwealth, removing the Territory's rights to make its own decisions on this issue. After more than 2 decades, that right was restored in 2022. This was a significant moment for the Northern Territory as we again had the option to shape our own laws, and now on this deeply personal matter, it does actually count. I thank the committee for the extensive work that they have undertaken, and I recognise, as well as the other Cabinet colleagues, the time, the care and dedication that went into this process, particularly the effort to visit remote and regional communities. It was just as important that Territorians across our vast jurisdiction had that opportunity to be heard, because we believe that consultation on this important issue in remote areas is critical, and be part of that law reform process for the Northern Territory. Madam Speaker, I want to formally acknowledge the Chair, Dr Tanzil Rahman MLA, Member for Fong Lim, and the Deputy Chair, Mr Matthew Curl MLA, Member for Blaine. I also thank committee members Mrs Ollie Carlson MLA, Member for Wanguri, Mr Duran Young MLA, Member for Daly, MX Kat McManara MLA, Member for Nightcliff. The committee approached this work with seriousness and respect for the people of the Northern Territory. The committee was also well supported by the Secretariat and advisors, and I thank Dr Carolyn Williams, Kate Helmy, Georgia Eagleton, Kaylin James Eichen and Kim Coucher for their professionalism and dedication. And I also acknowledge the expert advisors who provided guidance and insight, Professor Ben White, Dr Madeline Archer, Catherine Walker, Dr Katrine Del Villa, Denisha Tyler and Dr Gintajali Lamba. Their collective expert helped ensure the report is thorough and well informed. Madam Speaker, voluntary assisted dying is one of the most sensitive and complex matters that any parliament can consider. It raises deep ethical, moral and personal questions that affect every Territorian differently. Many people support the right to choose, and many others, including faith-based and cultural groups, hold strong and sincere concerns. As a government and as individual members of this Assembly, we must approach this debate with respect and compassion for all viewpoints. I am aware that some have questioned the time that we've taken to approach the approach that we've taken to reach this point, and it is important to be clear about the history. Like I said, voluntary assisted dying was briefly legal in the Northern Territory under the Rights of the Terminally Ill Act 1995. That law was overturned by the Commonwealth in 1997, and for more than 2 decades, the Territory was prohibited from making its own laws on this issue. The Commonwealth only restored that right to the Territory in 2022. The former Labor government delivered its report just shy of the election in 2024, despite not being an election commitment for the CLP government, and noting the significant public interest in this issue. We recognise that it's too important to leave unfinished. Of course, like I said, we asked the Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee to undertake the comprehensive consultation and review that has now been completed. However, it is fair to say that progress on this issue could have occurred much earlier under the previous government, but we have ensured that it's now moving forward with structure, with transparency and respect for the community. And as the Attorney-General, I, of course, respectfully ask that the committee report back to me by the end of September to ensure progress on this, which then did happen, and obviously we are tabling this report today. So, Madam Speaker, it is our intention to introduce a bill early next year. This timeline allows every member of this Assembly the opportunity to consult with their communities before the debate takes place. And as you highlighted yourself, talk to us about what you feel about with the report, so that feedback is well and truly heard by government. When the bill is presented, members will be free to exercise a conscious vote. That means each of us will vote in accordance with our own beliefs and the views of the people we represent. Madam Speaker, the drafting of legislation will draw on the committee's recommendations and lessons from other jurisdictions. It will also reflect the unique circumstances of the Northern Territory, including the importance of cultural safety and access in remote areas. And once the draft bill is available, there'll be further opportunity for members and Territorians to provide feedback before the debate begins. This will ensure that any future legislation is clear, safe and grounded in compassion and community expectations. The voices of Territorians are at the heart of this process, and I encourage all members to speak with their constituents in the months ahead. And these conversations will help ensure that when we come to debate and decide on this legislation, we do so with a clear understanding of the community's values and expectations. The committee's work has been detailed and respectful. It provides a foundation for informed debate in this Assembly, and so on behalf of the CLP Whanakiara Government, I again thank the committee, its secretariat, the expert advisors and all the Territorians who took part in the consultations. This issue touches life, death, faith and compassion. And our responsibility now is to consider it carefully and respectfully, guided by the voices of the Territorians that we serve. We will continue this work thoughtfully and with respect of all perspectives as we prepare to bring forward legislation into the new year. And I just want to summarise and finish by saying that it was the CLP who brought VAD to Territorians, and that was 30 years ago, and it will be the CLP that brings VAD back for Territorians some 30 years later. Thank you, Madam Speaker.